Only one of these 18 Big Ten schools will be standing by the end of this video, but if you've never seen an Imperialism before, let me explain how this map will go from 18 colleges to just one. To start each round, I'm going to spin this team wheel, which is going to land on a Big Ten school. And then this arrow right here will decide what direction they're going in. The only way you can get eliminated in Conference Imperialism, though, is if you're attacked. So for example, if Michigan attacks Ohio State and the Buckeyes defend their territory, then both of those schools will remain in the game. We definitely saw how important home field advantage was in SEC Imperialism. The first team attacking is Michigan State, and we'll see what direction they're headed in. I'm assuming it's going to be somewhere down south. There isn't anywhere else for them to try and conquer. We'll see if they can knock out the Wolverines. But remember, if the home college can defend the attack, then both teams get to stay in. Michigan State is already trying to get rid of Michigan. That is some real rivalry hate right there. But despite not having an offense, right now the Wolverines are up by 3 points with a minute left and they need one more stop. We'll see whether or not they're able to get it. They've already forced the ball to be thrown away once. Now this pass is going to go nowhere. And that's been the story for most of this game. The Spartans have their backup quarterback out there because Chili's got hurt and Michigan's defense is getting the pick. So Will Johnson secured the Wolverines' place in Imperialism for now. You have to wonder though if things would have been different if Aiden could have just stayed healthy. But at least for now, they get to hoist up the Paul Bunyan trophy. This is a perfect example of when the attacking team fails to take over some land. And we'll see if the next attacking team makes the same mistake. It is Wisconsin. So they're trapped in by a lot of schools and they're going to be headed to the northwest. No matter what, they were going to have to face somebody. It's going to be Minnesota. And I would like to note that with the insanity of conference realignment, this map spans across the entire US. I think that's going to add a whole other factor to how this Imperialism plays out. And this is what it means for Minnesota to defend their home territory. They were not losing their home stadium right off the rip. They are up by 17 with like 10 seconds left. And that means another item of Paul Bunyan's is going to somebody else. There seems to be a multitude of Big Ten rivalries that have something to do with him in the name. And this is where things get interesting. We're headed over to the West Coast, but with the wheel landing on UCLA and the arrow pointing back towards the east, they're just going to take this free state. That's going to happen anytime it points towards a state that isn't claimed. But we'll see how Indiana does. They've been on a tear this season, and they have a chance to knock out the Fighting Illini right off the rip. We got updated rosters recently, so both of these teams got a bump. And with a minute remaining, it's not looking too good for Illinois. They have the ball, they have their timeouts, but they have to get into field goal range to take the lead. And that's a really good start right there completing that pass, but they still have some more work to do. I would say they probably need about another 20 yards. Luke Altmaier is going to go over the middle, but something's going wrong. The connection's not there. The pressure might be getting to the Fighting Illini. On 3rd and 10 though, they have a great play design. Plus they were able to get out of bounds, so that might have saved their season as they are going to continue to get more. They are now for sure in field goal range. You can see that they're trying to just settle for 3. They might get a touchdown, but even from this distance, there's no guarantee that you're going to hit the field goal. We've seen some very short misses in Imperialism history, but their kicker is lined up down the middle and they are going to hit it. Indiana and Curtis Rourke though could do a really funny thing if they had a huge pass here, but instead they opted for the shorter one. It seems like the Fighting Illini are going to defend their home territory. Final play of the game is going to result with the tip finishing it. And there it is. Illinois survives against the Hoosiers. If you can't already tell, the home territory rule really changes how this plays out, because in the bigger Imperialisms, Indiana would lose all their territory off a failed attack. We need to see some of these West Coast teams though expanding their land. Washington's not doing it, and instead they're trying to knock off Oregon this early on. They owned the Ducks last year, but this is a much different Washington team, and they never stood a chance in this game. They lost it 31-7. Even with Dylan Gabriel playing that well though, Oregon could have scored more points. So between them, Ohio State, and Penn State, those are the 3 favorites to win the entire thing. Now they do have a chance to get their revenge if this points back towards Washington, and I don't think the Huskies expected their attack to backfire like that on them. They're gonna have to defend. This might just be the first elimination of Big Ten Imperialism, but the Huskies have battled since they are at home. They're only trailing by 4 with a minute and a half remaining, which means if they're able to crack the end zone right here, they're gonna have a lead against the Ducks. It is now 2nd and 17. Will Rogers is going to get this one out, and he is gonna feed it straight to them. Oregon gets the interception, so they are able to wave goodbye to them as he walks off the field. They only have 2 timeouts as well, so it's not like they can get the ball back. Or maybe they will. With 5 seconds left, they have one final chance to throw up a prayer, and they could have had it. He ran out of bounds. He's clapping. I know he's happy. But whatever defense Oregon just had out there was not ready to stop them. This is the Ducks' fault, though. They took back-to-back kneels after that first down play, knowing there'd be a couple seconds left. Washington doesn't get this. So now it can become official. The Ducks have knocked them out. That is our first elimination of this entire thing. One of the new additions to the Big Ten this past season. And we've got a long way to go, but we're now down from 18 teams to 17. The top programs are going to be super hard for some of these teams like Purdue to knock off. But this is what gives them a chance, some life. They could attack here and have a lot of success versus in-state rivals Indiana. It'd be pretty comical if the Boilermakers knocked them out right now. But that was really unlikely to happen even with a last-second touchdown. For most of this game, Curtis Rourke ran the show. But if Purdue made it any closer, we would have definitely had to step in and watch. The teams that have been attacking so far have definitely struggled. And we'll see what direction Illinois is going in. It's going to be up to the north. So that means if Northwestern can't win, the entire state's on the line. After the Fighting Illini's comeback win versus Indiana, this is their chance to shine. But it's the same story over and over again. Whenever teams play on the road, they don't do well. That's the same offense that just threw for almost 400 yards. But it takes a lot for your team to be eliminated, and now it's on USC. That arrow was very close to landing on the Fighting Illini again, but instead it has the Trojans attacking UCLA because it just hits this bottom part of Nevada. If USC wins this, there's only going to be 2 teams left on the West Coast. And they're in a decent spot with a little more than a minute left, but this game's not over, and that's what UCLA needs. They're down by 3, so a field goal sends it to overtime, which is looking pretty likely. They still have 2 timeouts as well, but they could go for a touchdown. That would really change things for the Bruins. They're about to sling it, and they've completed 3 in a row. We are watching them just dismantle this USC defense, though I think they had somebody open. Now Ethan Garbers is trying to take it in, and UCLA is going to have a 4-point lead. The only way they're not going to survive this attack now is if they give up a touchdown in 30 seconds. Miller Moss is going to start this drive with an incompletion. So it's looking pretty good for the Bruins as they give that up. 20 seconds still. We'll see if USC can do anything else. I mean, they still have a timeout left after they use one here, and it always made sense for them to do that. But they're going to need some even deeper passes down the field. 10 yards isn't going to cut it. Their efficiency looks good, but if they make one mistake, it's all over. Miller Moss, if he takes the sack, it's done. And UCLA now gets to celebrate, ringing the victory bell. Any bit of territory that is earned is a hard-fought piece of territory. And the Trojans have been landed on again, but they're not playing UCLA. That would have been super unlucky for the Bruins if they had to beat them twice in a row. But instead, they just take over the empty state, and this time it's going to go to Illinois. They just had a chance to knock out Northwestern. The arrow isn't pointing towards them, though. And to be honest, with how spread out the Big Ten is, taking over the free states is pretty needed. Somebody's got to do it at some point. We are going to Penn State, and this is a scary team to get landed on who's going on the attack. Again, though, they're not playing anybody. For the 3rd time in a row, they're just taking over land. But now Rutgers is going to have a very hard time avoiding them. Just from looking at that area recently, Maryland was in a pretty good spot, and that's because of this small state right here. But what is even happening? Every single spin that we're getting isn't leading to actual matchups. But UCLA might have a chance to get revenge if they want it. Well, instead they're going in the opposite direction. That arrow is just going to hit this piece of Oregon. And if they pulled this off, that would drastically change the rest of Imperialism. There is something up with this UCLA team, clearly. I mean, it's a 4-point game. I was not expecting that. And in every Imperialism, they overperform. If they could score a touchdown, they could also pull off the biggest upset we've seen in this Imperialism yet. But now it is 3rd and 10. They're struggling to complete passes, and that could have been intercepted. You're basically looking at a 4-and-out that would end the rest of this game. Oregon's getting in pressure, but on the run, they complete the pass, and this kid might actually be gone. I mean, he's got speed. That acceleration right there just changed the game. The Ducks are now super nervous. They're at the 10, and the Bruins might actually do it. I mean, they really don't need that much more. Man-to-man coverage out there. Ethan Garbers misses his throw, but all of these fans are very shook up. It's always going to be a good ending with elimination on the line in a tight battle, though. Can Oregon get the sack? No, not like this UCLA. They are blowing it. They're now on the 22-yard line. That's another bad pass, and this man right here might have cost them. They still have one more chance to reach the end zone, though. We'll see if they can make it happen. Oregon going out. The ball is in the air, and they are the ones that come down with it. We were so close to seeing the Ducks eliminated, but instead, the map of the United States does not change at all. I said going into this that the home teams always defend their territory well, but this has been to another level, and Iowa is going south. They are now the college taking their chance at knocking out Illinois, and if the Fighting Illini never took over Missouri, they could have avoided this. That's where it can still be a little bit controversial whether or not you want to expand a bunch. And I'm not kidding when I say there needs to be a case study on what Caleb Johnson's done for Iowa. They've scored 34 points in this game, and the running back has single-handedly saved the Hawkeyes offense, as on 4th and 9, their defense is getting the interception, and this could be a scary team. Maybe not nationally, but in this Imperialism, they could make a run. And even their quarterback has thrown for 4 touchdowns. This is not the Iowa that we know and love, but they're about to triple their territory size, which could be a good or a bad thing for them. I think what they have to be afraid of long-term is ending up being the big team that divides the U.S. between the east side of the Big Ten and then the west side, because then they'd be stuck in a lot of games, but for now they'll be fine. We've already seen Penn State not have to attack once. It might happen here though, and there's really nowhere for poor Rutgers to go. They're gonna have to withstand this. As of recently though, I would say the Scarlet Knights have gotten a lot better, which has clearly translated to how they're playing on the field. They're down by 5, but with about a minute left, they still have a chance. Now they have to drive the length of the field to save themselves, kind of like what UCLA did, but there's still a minute remaining. They just picked up the first down. They've taken quite a bit to snap this ball though, and that's deflected. I'm pretty sure that is Ethan Kalakamanis or whatever back there. I don't know how to say his name, but why are you dapping up your teammate? Kalakamanis has got to realize you did not just have a good play right there. You need to start slinging it, and he has done that. The Penn State defender catches him though. Rutgers is so close to surviving, but they still need to get themselves another 10 yards. We have seen teams struggle in this situation, but not them. Things are about to get really interesting though, because if they don't get this 2-point conversion, they're still not in a good spot. That kind of saves them. Now it's a 3-point game, so even if they do give up a field goal, it's going to overtime, but their defender just let him go for a free touchdown. There was zero effort right there to even stop the pass. To make things worse, this is Nick Singleton, a running back. He's not even a receiver, but it looked like he could have made a play to intercept this ball, and he didn't even try to jump. Rutgers is like Nebraska, just a team that's not meant to have nice things. They have a slight chance of responding, but burning their final timeout's going to make it really tricky. We will see if they can come up with anything. It's going to be very important that they don't catch anything in bounds, and it's better that that was not on target in my opinion. They're going for the same look. You might as well just chuck up the Hail Mary, which means it all comes down to this right here. Can Rutgers survive? Can they beat Penn State on their home field? That ball's going to be caught, and they are in the end zone. The Scarlet Knights said we are not going out this early, and this is why we all watch Imperialism. How did they pull that off? I'll tell you one thing, Ethan Kalakamanis is not done, and there's a team to believe in, a team to root for if one of your favorite colleges isn't in this. But before we finish the rest of this Imperialism, a word from Vessi, today's video sponsor. Sitting in this chair all day and playing college football, it's crucial that I still get outside and move around a bit, so discovering Vessi was perfect for that, because their shoes provide comfortable, reliable footwear. They have a variety of different colors, shapes, and sizes to choose between, but the best part about Vessi shoes is they are 100% waterproof, and they don't feel like waterproof shoes, just your normal sneaker. This makes them very versatile, and I've been enjoying their low-top Stormburst myself. Like I said, it is crucial that I stay active, so it's comforting to know that if it starts raining mid-walk or there's a big puddle I have to get through, I don't have to worry about wet socks. And their shoes are also super easy to clean just by rinsing them off. I have good news for you all as well. You can step into waterproof comfort with Vessi's early Black Friday sale. So stay dry in style with select waterproof Vessis, now just $99 at Vessi.com. Don't wait, grab yours before they're gone. And now it's time to get back to Big Ten Imperialism. Now Purdue's certainly interesting. They've struggled in real life, and this arrow is more pointing up towards Wisconsin if anything, but they have to go in this direction to get there. We just went from that thrilling game to a game between two teams nobody cares about. And you can't even get offended if you're a fan of one of those two teams, because let's just be real, nobody's turning this on. I am interested to see if Northwestern can come back though, because even if it's not looking good for them down by 11 with a minute and a half left, there's a chance. Now they just ruined part of it by burning their first timeout, but as long as they don't use another, they could still get the ball back without an onside kick. And if Purdue blows this attack, that's going to be very disappointing for them, but they swat it down. The Wildcats are taking too long to get the snap off, so all of a sudden it really feels like they're going to have to get the onside kick even if they do get in. This is certainly a very questionable decision though, because they just kicked a field goal. They're down by 8 still. That is not the smart move right there whenever there's this little time left. The onside kick goes to Purdue though, so it won't matter. And that means we've now gotten our third elimination in Big Ten Imperialism. That doesn't necessarily change too much about this main Midwest area, but it does affect it a little bit. And at some point, we have to see schools like Ohio State get involved. For most of those schools, that's a much bigger threat than Oregon is for the time being. And Iowa gets to attack another opponent. This time they're headed straight east. What an unfortunate situation Purdue has just found themselves in, because immediately after taking over that land, they could be eliminated. This has to be some sort of sick joke or something though, because I was hyping up the Iowa offense. I was saying that they were playing well. They've done much better in real life this season, but right now they only have scored 3 points. I have no idea what has gone wrong for them, but they were getting back-to-back big passes, and this kid right here is quick. All of a sudden, Purdue is on the verge of being eliminated, and I was not expecting Wet Jen to excel accelerate like that. Now Caleb Johnson catches it, but that actually hurts Purdue because they've been able to run out a little bit more clock. Now, I don't really understand taking a timeout, but from this point on the field, they should be able to punch it in, and wide open, there's somebody in the end zone. Iowa has finally scored a touchdown. It took them a little bit, but it means that Purdue is now just 32 seconds away from getting eliminated. What will Hudson Card do right here? They just knocked out Northwestern. They're about to have a pretty big game, and they're fortunate to still have all three of their timeouts. Of course, they used one right there, and if this pass is completed, they'd probably use another, but Hudson Card missing might have cost them the game. They had a really solid Iowa defense beat deep, but we have seen teams like Rutgers come back with no time left, and Purdue might be able to do the same thing. That is what they needed right there. Their student section is erupting, and coming out of the timeout, they could still save their run in Imperialism. They have a couple chances to reach the end zone. Hudson Card, though, takes the check down, and they were better off not catching that football. Dropping it there might mean that they have a chance for 2 plays instead of 1. They're not going to need it, though, because the Boilermakers have come back at the last second. It was a miracle, but they were able to defend their home territory, and it took those offenses way too long to get it going in that game. Next up, we have Minnesota. They have a chance to pull off an attack, but instead, they're just going to take over some land. I think this is North Dakota. There's still a couple of states between the west part of the Big Ten and everybody else, but Penn State is going to have another opportunity to attack. I almost feel bad for Maryland right here. They're not in a great spot, but maybe they can do the same thing that Rutgers just did. I would say that it's looking pretty good for them, but unfortunately, Penn State is on their 10-yard line, and I guess both of these teams are wearing colored jerseys. Either way, though, Penn State, down by 6 with a touchdown, takes a lead. So now the Terrapins are on the verge of being eliminated. Here's the thing, though. In the next minute, they basically only need to get like 40 yards, and that's a solid start right there. They still have 2 timeouts remaining, and they catch it. Now their mascot's starting to feel a little bit more confident because it seems like they are going to be able to save themselves as they get that one out too. I still think they've ruined their helmets, and I could go on a whole rant about the modern uniforms in college football, but after spiking it, it's 3rd down, and Penn State has come up big. Billy Edwards Jr. had nowhere to go. There's also only 10 seconds left. You do not have time to waste to be taking a play in right here. You pretty much need a 20-yard gain into field goal range. It all comes down to this, and that is not enough. It really looked like Maryland was about to survive the attack, but in the end, the Nittany Lions have persevered the way that they needed to, which means that they have picked up a little bit more territory. But I think this can all be blamed on the fact that Maryland went from wearing jerseys like this to now wearing these basic, standard, boring, no-style uniforms instead. Don't worry, though. I am fair. My own team's done the same thing. Like, why did we put this terrible logo on our shoulder pad when at one point we had something a little bit more unique that I liked a lot more? I could literally do that for like half the teams in the country. Baylor, you're not safe. But for now, we'll just get back to Imperialism. I'm not going to go on a crazy rant. Except even Oregon's jerseys have kind of taken a step back from what they used to be. With that arrow causing them to take over the state of Idaho, though, that really changes up the map. Because if you zoom out, there's now not that much space between that side of the Big Ten and then all of this. So it might be connected a lot sooner than I would have thought, and Rutgers gets to play. I don't think it matters where this lands. They're pretty much just surrounded, and with nowhere to go, they're now getting the chance to knock out Penn State. This is just how quickly things can flip. They barely survived their attack. And as time winds down in this one, the score might not look good, but Rutgers isn't in a terrible spot. They have it down on the 3-yard line. They could get a touchdown, and they still have a couple of timeouts remaining. If they're able to get into the end zone right here, this one is not over. They cannot take a sack. But now it's 3rd and goal. They have to be able to hit a target as well, and it's going to be picked off by the Nittany Lions. That was their opportunity to knock them out, but they couldn't do it. And they couldn't even make it a one-possession game there at the end. Minnesota once again has an opportunity to play though, but the Arrows keep on making it, so they expand their territory out west. All of a sudden, the Big Ten is connected throughout the entire country, so there's no isolation going on anymore, and it's going to give us Purdue. They have already been successful in knocking out one team, but if they can knock out Ohio State, that would be absurd. Every time one of these games happen though, it's a chance for an upset. But due to a previous experience, the Buckeyes know that they have to fear the Boilermakers, so they put up 49 points. Purdue getting in there doesn't even help them out that much, because they're still trailing by 14 points, and the onside kick could go to them as Ohio State's struggling to pick it up. They eventually get it, but that's why we watch the onside kicks, because they have been recovered in previous Imperialisms. Anyway, Ohio State was not going to lose. Will Howard had a great game, but if their offense hadn't played so flawlessly, they probably would have gotten put out. Now we're seeing Rutgers get another chance to beat Penn State, because like I've already said, there's nowhere else for them to go, and the big teams in the Big Ten are getting a lot of heat at the moment. Penn State handled this one a lot better better though. They won it by 23. And Nick Singleton went off for that. The three giants in the Big Ten have all withstood an attack though. So nobody's been able to put them out yet. Now we have Iowa on the attack. And they're about to play Minnesota, who has a lot of territory on the line. This game decides who has the most land in the Big Ten for the time being. And it isn't looking great for Minnesota. They currently find themselves down by 7 even with the ball. They're going to have to go all the way down the field. And they're out there in 5 wide, but there's only about 35 seconds left. Time management's not been the best. But they are still moving it down the field. And over on the left side, what is he doing? They had a touchdown right there. But he somehow didn't turn around and bring the football in. Minnesota deserves to lose this game after that. I mean, they had it gifted to them. And now it's 3rd and 10. We'll see if Brosmer can do anything. He's taking the sack. So their mascot should not be this happy right now. 4th and 20, elimination on the line. He can't even get the ball out. And what did I say? The Hawkeyes are going to be a scary team in this Imperialism. This is what the map's about to look like. They are literally taking over such a huge portion of it. But all the paths from the east to the west go through them as well. We will see whether or not that actually benefits them. UCLA gets the pick. But the arrow has to direct them towards a school, and it does. This might be it for USC right here. They have to win. And they had their chance to knock out the Bruins earlier on. Well, if they're ringing the victory bell, then they must have handled this attack well. And UCLA clearly couldn't keep up with the Trojans, as Miller Moss's stats aren't even that amazing, but they won by so much. He did his job to make sure that USC is still in it. And Ohio State on the arrow wheel might be the scariest thing. They don't get to attack in this round though. Instead, they just get to take over my home state. But that could lead to them playing Indiana in the future. And speaking of the Hoosiers, there they are. There is always a weird instance of me saying something and it happening. But Indiana is not playing Ohio State right now. Instead, they're attacking Purdue. This is for the state right here. They're trying to take it over. And I think this one's just going to end up going to overtime. But we'll see. Indiana has the ball on a 3rd and 10 where they run for it. And they're probably just settling for the field goal. They could have gone for the touchdown, but instead they're taking the safe approach. They want to make sure they can tie it. And the Boilermakers are not going to even throw the ball. They're sending it to OT too. The stakes are high though. This is what we wanted. And the Hoosiers have the ball first. Curtis Rourke is just handing this one off for a loss. On 2nd and 12, I thought they were going to pass it, but no, they're going back to the run. And here we go. If they get held to a field goal, Purdue's going to be in a pretty good spot. They refuse to do much more than just going to their running backs, so that'll do it. Their defense will still have a chance to get them to a second overtime. But apparently that kick didn't even go in. I have not exited the sim fast enough, so I can't even go back and watch it. But I guess there's no guarantees that Purdue is able to win it off of a field goal either, so they refuse to kick yet. They're just going to hand it off. Maccabee's going to break a tackle, and he broke another. It is over for Indiana. They're not going to be able to knock out Purdue. That's the touchdown. So it doesn't even matter that they missed the field goal. For whatever reason, though, I can't even watch back the field goal, even though we all saw it was missed. So do we have EA rigging Imperialism so Purdue can stay in it? That's what it feels like. It was hard to see if the field goal even missed. But that's behind us now. More importantly, Nebraska got landed on. They're just going to take over Colorado. And the number of states that are available to just claim are starting to diminish. Now, if Purdue is able to win their next attack, that's going to be pretty interesting because they just survived and they have a chance to knock out Indiana. The Boilermakers are one of the teams that's been in a lot of these games, but they did not do a very good job attacking here. They lost by 25. So once again, it is back to the wheel and it's going to land on USC. We have seen them go back and forth with UCLA. They don't get to play them though because there's plenty of other states to claim. It just shows how spread out this conference really is. Teams don't even have to play each other, and when they do, they're not getting eliminated. But I still believe Nebraska could make things very interesting. For their second turn in a row though, they don't get to attack another college. No, they get to take over another state. But when you zoom out, the gap between all of them has definitely closed. Surely somebody has to play soon. It's going to be Michigan. And we've not heard from them in a while as they're going to go to the South. We could have gotten the game, but instead they're attacking Purdue. And we'll see if the Boilermakers can survive this as well. Well, I have to say I'm impressed. The Purdue defense single-handedly fixed the Michigan offense. And this one isn't even close. 42-13. Alex Orji was putting it wherever he wanted. And for all of the fighting that Purdue's done, I was not expecting them to go out in that fashion at least. It now means that a third of the Big Ten's been eliminated from this Imperialism though. And this is the biggest conference in the country, so it's definitely taken a bit. Maybe the third time can be the charm for Rutgers though, because we have them playing Penn State again and they have to attack. All the Nittany Lions had to do was run prevent defense one time and this wouldn't even be possible. And I'm not saying the Scarlet Knights have a great chance in this game, but if they can go 95 yards in about 40 seconds, they could beat Penn State. They have a long way to go, but getting out of bounds certainly helps. Now they're going to complete this one over the middle, and still having 3 timeouts gives them that chance. Ethan Kalakamenis, you just got to step up here, keep on making the right reads. But that feels like a wasted play. Getting 7 yards and using your second timeout really doesn't do too much. They're past midfield, but they're going to need some big plays. We have seen seen that happen against the Nittany Lions before, from this team especially. And it's not like they're having any incompletions. We might be witnessing a masterclass at work. They just can't complete it inbounds. They're sending it up and it's not inbounds. I was hoping they at least had a chance to catch it, but they took not keeping the ball in bounds a little bit too literally. Now they're gonna take the sack. And that means Penn State survived. That's what you want to see out of your defense though. They are not going to be eliminated. And the search for teams that can actually conquer land continues. UCLA up next, they are going to attack to that direction. Or maybe they're just going to take over the Free State. It should connect the US even more though. These teams will literally do anything besides playing each other. And could this be it for Rutgers? Penn State gets to retaliate, which would have been interesting, but the arrow did not point in the correct direction. We'll see where the wheel takes us next. It is going to be USC. And will they actually attack this time? The world may never know. They're not. The arrow is just going to miss the tip right here, so I have to expand this map outward to see them take Texas. But at this rate, we're going to see the entire United States get taken over. It adds a whole new element to this imperialism. Penn State once again gets their chance. But I am fully expecting this to not point towards Rutgers, and it doesn't. The thing is though, at some point these states are all going to have to get taken over. But you would most likely rather attack than just get more territory. Now here's something I can get behind. Michigan has been landed on, and they have nowhere else to go besides up towards Michigan State, so they could knock out their rivals. We all know that the Spartans had their chance earlier on, and it's not looking too good for Michigan State. They have 34 seconds to score 15 points. We can pretty much just eliminate them. And it's kind of funny that they think spiking the ball is going to help them at all. The former national champions have started to come alive in this Big Ten imperialism, causing some chaos. They're getting this trophy, and the number of teams left has now dropped down from 12 to 11. There's still plenty of other programs that could win it, but when it comes to the underdogs, the chances for them aren't looking as good. There's still plenty of time to see how it all shapes out though. Penn State has an opportunity, but their last two opportunities have led to nobody playing at all. This also would have been a super entertaining attack against Ohio State, but this little portion of West Virginia means they're taking over the state. So of course it is back to the wheel where it lands on Iowa. They've been pretty impressive. They've been able to do some damage so far, but that arrow is just going to direct them down here to Arkansas to take that over. And if you told me at the beginning of this imperialism that them and USC would ever be touching, I would have called you crazy. There is simply no way teams can keep on avoiding attacking, and Ohio State has a chance to make things super interesting, especially considering that they could knock out Penn State right now. This is set to be the biggest game that we've had in this imperialism yet, and with about a minute left, it looks like the Buckeyes are down by 6. Will Howard has the football though, so he could get a win over Penn State, fully eliminating them if they have a good drive, and that's what you want to see if you're an Ohio State fan. Jeremiah Smith, for only being a freshman, is super impressive, but with only one timeout remaining, by the time that they're going to get this spike off, there's 31 seconds. The Penn State crowd's a little bit worried now. You can see the nervousness on their faces, and I feel like Ohio State has them right where they want them if they trust their offense to get enough yardage here, which they do. That was an incredible snag with the dragged feet and all, but there will be enough time for Penn State to respond, and all they're going to need is a field goal. They still have all 3 of their timeouts left, which is a huge deal, and it all comes down to Drew Aller's level of play. That ball was not caught right there. He has plenty of time to throw this one out, but his receivers might not be getting open. They can complete passes down the middle of the field though. With the fade route, they were almost open, and if he just floated that ball, they have a touchdown. That's a pretty big sell right there, but we'll see what Drew Aller comes up with. 4th and 10, game on the line, elimination on the line, and Penn State is going to go all the way to the 50. Now they're getting a lot closer to field goal range, so the Buckeyes better pay attention to Nick Singleton out of the backfield. If they can get a good gain here, they'd be fine, but instead of picking up 10 yards, attempting the field goal, now they have to attempt a Hail Mary because they lost 10 yards. Drew Aller steps up, throws this one on the run, and that is far from the end zone. Penn State is going to be eliminated with this loss. They just can't beat Ohio State. And besides having to worry about Rutgers over on that eastern border, this sets up Ohio State really well for the rest of imperialism. I'm pretty sure that the Buckeyes have never won one, so with only 10 teams left, this could be their chance. But Michigan is going to have an opportunity to attack, and it's not at them. Iowa fans aren't going to like this either, but if you go from the center of the logo, it's just going to hit their lands. So there's a chance that they get knocked out of imperialism right here. Well, I think this game has gone exactly how we would expect it to, because on paper, you have 2 90 overall defenses, 2 offenses that aren't that great, but there's still time for them to shine a bit. With a minute and a half left, you have to assume that there could be a ton of scores still happening. We have seen that happen before, but Alex Orji's already given the ball to the other team 3 times in this game, and he almost did it right here. He's either shooting for touchdown number 2 or interception number 4. There's no in between. Michigan goes to the 5-yard line, and I don't know why they're taking timeouts, but they came out in Wildcat here. Donovan Edwards had nowhere to go. Now it's 2nd and goal. Alex Orji could probably step up and run for it. Instead, he throws it at an Iowa defender, and even his offensive lineman's not too happy. Everybody in the stadium could see that he was not open right there. Michigan has 2 more chances. Now they have 1. So it all comes down to this right here. Alex Orji, game on the line, slings it, and it's deflected. Iowa might have done a terrible job of scoring, but they're going to survive against the Wolverines. That was a good opportunity for Michigan, though, to take over a large majority of the map. Rutgers gets a chance. And we all know there's only one direction that they can head in. The Buckeyes have them boxed in. They're about to attack them, but they have already failed numerous attacks. That's why I'm shocked that this one's even a contest with a minute left. But Rutgers could actually do it. Right now, it is 1st and 10 for them. They have the ball, trailing by 5 points. And we just watched Michigan fail their attack against Iowa, so hopefully we don't get 2 failed attacks in a row. Athan Kalakamanis has thrown 3 interceptions in this game, but that does not matter, because right now he has put his team in a position where they could actually upset Ohio State. You just gotta spike the ball. Come on, buddy. There's 30 seconds. No timeouts means that 4 vertical plays that got them into this position are probably their best move, but they didn't go with that and they had nobody open. I'm gonna need Athan to step up right here. This would be pure chaos to lose Penn State and Ohio State so close to each other, but he just seems to be struggling, and it's 4th down. Will the Buckeyes defense hold strong right here? At least make sure that you throw it towards a receiver, or you know what? I will take it. It was thrown straight at the Ohio State defender, but it gave them a chance. I was going to crash out, be a little bit upset, because they could have pulled off a huge upset. But the fact that they were in this in the first place is impressive. Whether teams are winning or losing, though, we're starting to get a lot of good matchups. And Ohio State now has the power to attack to the south. There's nobody occupying Tennessee, though, so everybody around them's been spared. And with where Rutgers currently sits on the map, I feel like they're pretty protected. The odds of them getting attacked at that specific angle seem so slim. But UCLA could be in trouble because Oregon's trying to take them out. If you're a fan of the Bruins, that is not the way that you wanted that arrow to point. And I really wish they would have put up a good battle here so they didn't just get eliminated off of a blowout loss, but that's what happened. Dillon Gabriel decided to throw for 6 touchdowns, and there's not too much that you can do about that. It also might give the Ducks one of the biggest territories in the country, if not the biggest. But I'd say right now USC and Iowa probably have a little bit more. I love how much of the map that we're using, though, for just one conference. We've hit the midway point because there's 18 teams in the Big Ten. Now there's just 9. And Wisconsin's gonna have to defend so they're not the next one knocked out. We just watched this Hawkeyes team score 12 points versus Michigan, but against Wisconsin, they've been able to put up 24. It just might not be enough to knock out the Badgers, considering all they need is a field goal to survive here. Here on 2nd and 10, they're going to get the ball out, but it's not caught. So they're gonna have to do something on 3rd and 10. Iowa only sent 4 at them, and they are just able to hit their flat. Braden Locke, that does not help out your team that much. The clock is gonna run, and we will see if they can survive right here. All they needed was a field goal. They're sending up a prayer, and he catches it. The ref said it wasn't actually a catch, though. I was celebrating with the trophy. There was no review or anything, and this means Wisconsin's been eliminated. I can only assume this is going to be very controversial, especially since a ref was right there, but I immediately take that back. I think his foot would have been in bounds. He just didn't catch the football. That means the game is on that receiver. He should have caught that football, and then his team would have been fine. They wouldn't have been eliminated. It definitely feels like we're starting to lose teams left and right, though, and the number of underdogs that are still remaining has definitely dwindled down. Now USC has an opportunity here. They could play Oregon, but instead, with the arrow pointing down here, they're going to be the team that takes over Hawaii. And due to all the open states around them, they've struggled to get some attacks off. I think it's going to be the same way for Ohio State, though, if anything points to the east. At least most of the time, because there's states above and below Rutgers that they wouldn't attack, but this one definitely runs into them. This could unfortunately be it for the Scarlet Knights. They have failed so many of their chances to knock other teams out, but they said they don't want to be done yet. It's 21-all. There's about a minute left in this game, and they are just going to take their check down. So they're in a tough spot. They've actually run it on 3rd and 14. Ohio State's going to get the ball back with plenty of time, and the Scarlet Knights better hope that this kid has a boot. No, he does not. He barely gets it past midfield. At least for a second, it looked like they could send it to overtime, that they would have a chance to survive. Now it doesn't. And all it took was that one completion. There was even a booth review on the catch, but all they did was confirm that he got a foot down. So they basically have to let Ohio State score a touchdown. If they don't, they're just going to run down the rest of the clock and settle for the game-winning field goal. And that is exactly what we've gotten right here. They could still miss it, though, but they don't. There's another elimination. It seemed to take forever for teams to go out earlier on, but this one won't affect the map as much because Rutgers didn't have that large of a territory. With a little bit of cleanup up here, this is all the territory that Ohio State now has, and we're headed back to the wheel where USC has a chance. Will they be taking over more territory, or will they get to attack? It was a closer closer call than they probably would have liked, but this is going to hit Oregon's territory. All I'm saying is if the Ducks lose this, that would really shake up everything. But considering USC is trailing by 14 points with 28 seconds left, I don't think it's going to happen, though they're about to score a touchdown with Zach Branch. If they recover an onside kick, this is not over. And it would be hilarious if Oregon blew this game in this fashion. They've missed the ball, but somebody behind him was able to pick it up. That means they're going to survive here at home. But just like Ohio State, they're definitely not unbeatable. Those are still the two favorites, of course, but there's no guarantees they make it that far. And Ohio State could even go out right here because Michigan is attacking them. Despite being much worse, the Wolverines did put the Buckeyes out in a recent Imperialism, and they might be able to pull it off again. I'm personally shocked they've been able to score 28 points in this one, but they've moved the ball. And that play right there is not going to help them. They wasted time and then they spiked the ball, so it is 3rd and 7, and this is going to be completed inbounds. They needed to pick it up, but the clock is going to run, and they still have a long way to go. I think Ohio State should be safe here, but just like Oregon, there is always the chance that they could go out. Alex Orji's trying to use his legs, and there goes Michigan's final timeout. I'm still going to give him his props, though. I was not expecting them to score 28. And how do you miss that throw? It looks like Michigan would have had it. Donovan Edwards is in the backfield for this 4th and 3. They go out of Wildcat, and Donovan Edwards hits the edge. They got out of bounds and everything. I cannot believe that that worked for them. And it has kept their chances alive for a little bit longer. Alex Orji could have also run right here. That was the weirdest decision I have ever seen. He could have gotten like 10 yards before stepping out of bounds, though he completes it deep. Ohio State's done. There is not enough time for them to respond back to this. And to think that the Buckeyes basically had them beat. All they had to do was stop them on 4th and 3. Instead, they're giving up this huge play, and what was that defender doing? Their last real hope is blocking this extra point, but they have failed to do that, so we'll see how they use their final 10 seconds in this game. It's going to be a very sad day for Michigan fans if they somehow give up a touchdown right here. Will Howard has enough time to get it out, but there's so many defenders around him. His 2 interceptions in this one are going to lead to them getting eliminated, and Donovan Edwards was the main key to their victory. I figured the odds of that win happening were pretty slim, but then it happened. Michigan's taken over a lot, and it's left Indiana basically just surrounded by them. I am sure the Hoosiers appreciate not having Ohio State on their border anymore, though, and the Ducks have been landed on. They're going to have a chance to attack. We have to really zoom out for this one to show that the Ducks are attacking the Hawkeyes, and if they end up taking them down, they're going to have far more territory than anybody else. Well, if you're a fan of Iowa, you're going to be disappointed to see you all have only scored 9 points in this game, and catching that doesn't help much, but at least you held Oregon to 14 points. With the clock running, this feels similar to Michigan-Ohio State, but the Hawkeyes have a lot less time to go a lot farther down the field. They're going to need one of their receivers to beat a Ducks corner deep, and they get this ball out. They're going for what I just said, but unfortunately, that look really wasn't there. It is now 4th and 1. You have to prioritize getting the first down here. They do get it out, but Oregon is the team that comes away with it. They are going to eliminate the Hawkeyes, and it has been a tough defense for teams to crack, but they did do enough. I know that I've roasted Iowa a ton in the past for their offense, but I was genuinely rooting for them right there. And Oregon just made it a lot tougher for them to win the entire thing because now they're touching all the remaining teams. No matter who this lands on, there's like a 50% chance they face the Ducks. And Nebraska has yet to play in this. They've only taken over land. But unfortunately for them, that is going to continue as they get the free state. They have missed out on attacking teams a few times now, but we'll see what USC can do. They are headed up to the Northwest. And of course, there is only one team that they can play in this direction. If they could pull this off, that would really open things up. And I can't believe what I'm seeing. They have a 2-point lead. Now, all Oregon has to do is get into field goal range and they can win this, and they're going to sling it over the middle as they catch it. But they still have some more work that they have to do. And it's important to keep in mind, Dylan Gabriel is not working with any timeouts. I'm not sure what's gone wrong in this game for them to be down by 2, but that does not help. The clock is going to continue to run, and they're going to spike the ball again. They're basically getting 2 plays to pick up a first down. Spike it. This is far from how I envisioned them going out, but they need a miracle on this 4th and 5, and that's inbounds. Their fans can be happy they picked it up, but we know what's going to happen. And the question is, will they get a spike off in time? It's not happening. So the Trojans have taken down the Ducks with this attack. This is so odd. They're playing way better in Imperialism than they are in real life. And all 3 of the major favorites that we had when we started Big Ten Imperialism aren't even making the Final Four. It was about time we had some chaos in one of these again. I would say that Indiana's the favorite now, but Michigan's probably the highest overall, and all these teams are very similar. The Hoosiers are getting their chance to attack, though. They're going to the east, so we'll see if they're able to get this total down from 4 to 3. They might be 1 overall worse, but they can definitely pull this off. Or they could get blown out by 18 points, and they scored a sympathy touchdown at the end. I think we gotta wonder how they just gave up 45 points to Michigan, and that was such a blown opportunity right there. Now Nebraska gets a shot. I'd assume they can only attack USC. I'm pretty sure they're surrounded. But there's no way this has happened to them again. The panhandle of Oklahoma means they don't get to attack. Even in Imperialism, the Cornhuskers have been so unlucky so far. And is Michigan gonna have a chance to get back at Indiana? Well, probably not right here, because if we go over through land, that arrow points to this state. And they're gonna need an arrow to point in a very specific direction in order to attack. Indiana, on the other hand, is completely boxed in right now. And from this angle of the map, you can't even see their logo, but we all know this is going to USC's territory. This is another great chance for the Hoosiers to pull off an elimination. And currently, Indiana is down by 5 points, but they're gonna complete this pass and take it all the way inside the red zone. That just changed everything in this game. And it's all because Curtis Rourke was able to hook up with his target right here for a 47-yard pass. He just went up, grabbed it, and kept running. Elijah Sarrett's been one of their better receivers. We'll see if he's able to find him here again, or if he's gonna fumble the ball away. USC recovers it, and the Trojans defense keeps them from being eliminated. That was a very wild 2 plays, but USC stays alive. And Indiana's not shooting too well from the field at the moment. They have to get an elimination. Depending on where this lands, Michigan could play them or USC. And there it is. The Trojans are going to be under attack again. It is nuts to me how many games that they've been able to make it through. And it seems like they're about to make it through another. If Michigan can somehow finish this drive with a touchdown, that would send it to overtime, and they are getting some nice progress, but they have no timeouts. So Alex Orji probably wishes that he could have thrown one less interception. We saw Indiana do the same thing. They got a huge gain on one play. And then on the next one, the USC defense came up huge. So we'll see if they can do that again. If history will repeat itself, Alex Orji throws it away. He could have also been aiming for that receiver, but just threw it like 10 yards over his head. There's really no telling with him. Will they get a touchdown though? He could roll out and scramble. Instead, he throws it. I don't know why he refuses to run. If he just steps up and scrambles, that is far scarier to the USC defense than him throwing the ball. He missed. And the craziest part is Michigan would have probably gotten a touchdown there. You can't even get on me for calling out that he's inaccurate, because he could have still won this game for Michigan even with Miller Moss having 4 touchdowns. We've avoided overtime though. We are back to the wheel, and it's Nebraska. It's only a matter of time before they finally get to attack. And when I say the Cornhuskers are so surrounded by USC, I mean it. There is nowhere else for them to play. Every single school is taking their shot at the Trojans. But maybe it's the freshman quarterback that'll take them down. What's crazy to me is this is the exact same situation that Michigan was just in. And it's 3rd and 10 for Dylan Raiola, where he is going to throw this one away. If they don't pick up this 4th down, the game's going to be over. And it all comes down to this right here. He immediately gets it out, and they have a receiver streaking down the field. The Trojans defense is not going to come up clutch. It was only a matter of time before somebody exposed them. But here's the thing. It's still going to be a tie game. We will see what USC can respond back with. Their first play is just going to be an inbounds pass. And that's going to run a lot of time off the clock in case they're not able to move the chains. Nebraska won't be able to respond, but now they're going to try to get in field goal range. There's also been an injury timeout, but USC didn't have to use one of their 3, so that puts them in an even better position as they sling it, and now they're past midfield. Right now, it looks like Nebraska is going to fall short, just like any other team that's tried to knock them out. And on 2nd and 10, Miller Moss is going to have a pretty clean pocket. They only sent 3 at him, but he is slinging it very deep, and that was risky. They could have had a touchdown, but they didn't need it. And all they should have been shooting for is a field goal. If they don't pick up this 3rd and 10, they're not going to get that, but they catch the ball. After taking a timeout, it seems like they're just going to settle for their field goal. They're going to give Nebraska a little bit of a chance to respond. But if they give up a touchdown on this final play, they didn't deserve to win anyway. That is another clutch finish for USC. It is going to Nebraska again, and they're about to get a second chance at taking them down. Never mind, USC has lucked out. This arrow points over to this open state, and that's the only type of land Nebraska's been able to take over in this Imperialism. Now the attacking is in the hands of USC, and they're headed up north, but there is nothing in the vicinity for them to go towards besides Nebraska territory. It's the closest thing to the wheel. It's all that they got. And this time, it is all on the Cornhuskers defense. They have a 4-point lead. There's a minute and a half left. It is 4th and 7 for USC, but if they pick this up, their hopes stay alive. And Miller Moss is just like me. He missed the open receiver. His running back would have gotten them the 1st down. They are still fighting to get the ball back right here, though. Patrick Mahomes II just hands it off again. And I'd assume they'll keep it on the ground on this 3rd and 3. That's what the computer normally does, and that means it's getting stopped. Nebraska fans should be nervous about right now, because they're known for blowing games, and giving it back to the Trojans with more than a minute left is a very risky thing to do in this situation. I mean, they had no choice, but they could have just won it by getting 1 first down, and their defense is all over him. The Bears saw that play, and now they want to draft the entire USC offensive line. But with that setback, we will see what Miller Moss can do. He is going to sling it straight to Nebraska. This is how the Cornhuskers are going to seal their win and make sure they don't get get eliminated. We have just seen both of these teams fail their attack against each other. And we went from everybody eliminating everybody to nobody wanting to win. USC has gotten another opportunity to attack though, and they simply can't because that arrow is pointing down here, so they're just going to take over another state. This map is currently very chaotic. Indiana has by far the smallest territory, but sometimes that is exactly what it takes to get to this point, and the wheel lands on them. Now they could attack either USC or Michigan. It is going to be the Wolverines, but that's only because they have all this territory underneath them, and I forgot how that even happened. I'm pretty sure Ohio State claimed it before they were beat, but we'll see if the Wolverines get beat or not. And this is such a lame way for them to go out at this point, but they have literally scored 0 points versus Indiana, and they're not getting any. You would think they would at least have made this close. They did terribly, and they did so bad that they made a defensive player win player of the game. Michigan did some great things in this Imperialism. They knocked out Ohio State. They gave us plenty of entertaining matchups, but at the end of the day, they simply didn't have what it took to make it to the final three. Now I have decided the national championship will take place on a neutral site, so home field advantage is only going to matter for one more round. There's a real chance Indiana takes over a large majority of the US by knocking out USC, but they've already gotten a chance to do this before. This time around, they're the team with the lead, but their defense is going to have to stop USC here, and they get a sack. Now normally that'd pretty much just end the drive because they made them lose 11 yards there, but it was 1st and 5 due to an offsides, and now they come back. USC just made up for all of that, and what they're shooting for right now is sending this game to overtime. I would assume they'd kick the extra point. However, even though it looked like that was not going to go well for them, there's a flag against Indiana, so roughing the passer makes it 1st and goal. They have 4 chances to tie it up right here. Running back open in the flat. Miller Moss decides not to look at him, but they still got a few yards, and if they wanted to, they could definitely be running the ball right here. Now that it's 3rd and goal though, it is no longer looking as great for them. Miller Moss might go down, and the Hoosiers just got the biggest play of the game. I'm not sure what Miller Moss could have done there. I didn't see anybody open, but he is going to get this ball out, and it's simply not enough. Indiana is going to go into their place and take them down with 14 points in the 4th quarter. Curtis Rourke said he wanted to be in that championship game, and I personally just think it makes a lot more logical sense to test out putting it on a neutral field. You all asked for that in the comments a lot. That means this final wheel spin doesn't mean as much, but Indiana's the team attacking, and we'll spin this for good measure. It actually would have pointed right at Nebraska. Either way, we're going to the championship, and Big Ten Imperialism all comes down to this. Now, I was not expecting it to be tied with 4 minutes left, but that is the treat that we have gotten in this game, and Indiana does not have the ball in a very good spot, but they're breaking a tackle to run for more. They have plenty of time to get down the field with this drive, though I don't know if they're going to get the first, and we'll see what they can come up with on 3rd and 1. This is a huge play right here. They keep it on the ground, but he didn't pitch it. Curtis Rourke just held onto the ball, and he might be the reason that Indiana doesn't win this entire thing. He has thrown 2 interceptions in this game, but Dylan Raiola still has some work to do. He is going to do the exact same play, and he doesn't have to pitch it, but he still threw it on the ground. And is Indiana going to get over to it in time? No, they're not. I swear, Nebraska never wants to have anything go their way, because this was an absolutely ridiculous situation to just chuck it on the ground. They have been very fortunate though that they still have the football, that they're going to get the first, or it's going to be marked as a 3rd and inches. They don't need much right here, but if they don't pick this up, they're probably going to just punt it back to Indiana, so they have to make the catch. I would say the Hoosiers aren't in an ideal spot, but there is still plenty of chances for Nebraska to blow this game. The more catches they make though, the better it's looking for them. And I still can't believe these are the 2 teams that we've gotten at the end of Big Ten Imperialism. To my surprise, Indiana is not calling any timeouts, but maybe it's a good thing if they're going to give up a big run. And Nebraska can't seal this game. No matter if they get a touchdown or a field goal, Indiana will have at least one chance to respond. And Dante just ran through all of them to get the go-ahead touchdown. We might be witnessing one of the more shocking winners in Imperialism history. It was a good thing they took over all those unclaimed states. But Curtis Rourke could still ruin it for them. He could also throw his 3rd interception of the game. You never know what's going to come. But the Indiana receiver didn't hold on to that football, which would have put them in a much better spot. Now it's 3rd and 12. Indiana isn't calling a timeout either. And it seems like good things are finally going to come to Nebraska fans. Indiana's losing their first game of the season since they're currently 10-0 in real life. They fumble the ball. Nebraska picks it up, and it is completely over. The big man gets the touchdown for the win. And I'm not sure what happened to the Hoosiers offense, but they just collapsed in the championship. Now you could say they failed their attack, but I made a new rule for Imperialism, and I think it makes the most sense for the final 2 teams. You will see that they've taken over pretty much all of the United States. But that's what the Big Ten's been going for, and if you want to see another Imperialism video in the near future, just smash the like button. That'll be good feedback that you all want even more.